Hey, it's me, Joseph, and making a little video for you today about building your audience. I was at a coffee shop this morning and met a guy. I've met him a couple of different times when I was there, and he was talking about how he needed to get some money quick and had some debts to pay off. Wanted to get some fast cash. And so I just started talking with him about, what that means and how to break it down. And he has a list of 12,000 people, and and his service costs $100 a shot, $100 an hour, and it's usually an hour long gig. He does Facebook optimizations, and not Facebook. I'm sorry, LinkedIn page optimizations. So I talked to them really quickly about a couple of different things, but it made me want to make you all a video about some of the topics that we talked about, and not the least of which is building your audience. So I've talked with some of you about the need to build an audience. That's what you're going to need in the long run is an audience. You have to have people who listen to you to be able to sell to them, right? So let's get digging into it. Our biggest problem that we have is really, this is what this guy was dealing with, not focusing on what he wants, right? We get scattered and we don't know, we just lose focus on what it is that we really want and need to be working on. And the biggest thing is to understand it, right? Do we even know what we want? Go back to the finding your freedom number video, right? Figure out what is your freedom number. What monthly income is it that you need? Do you remember from that video? Did you do those exercises? If not, you need to go back and do them. If you don't, go back, watch your freedom number video. But it's really worse than just not knowing those numbers. Once you've got that number, you have to do something about it. Right? You have to do something to start reaching that number and actually attaining those goals. So oftentimes, though, we make it all backwards. We start out going, hey, my service is worth X, $1,000 a day, $2,000 a day, and so I should be able to make blah blah blah. And that's really backwards. What you need to do is reverse engineer it. And you need to say, what is it that I need to make? Say you want to make 40K a month. And then you take that and you'll break that back down to go, okay, then what is my price point? You may be thinking about I charge $1,800 a day or $1,000 a day. Please don't get me started on that. If you want to have that conversation, go back and watch that Find Your Freedom Number video again. I'm a big proponent of not charging by the day or by the hour, but charging by the value of the work you do. So imagine that you do, maybe you do $30,000 projects, right? Your average project is $30,000. It takes 3 months to do. Essentially, that's 10K a month. If you had those kinds of projects, pretty logical. If you had 10K a month coming from those kinds of $30,000 projects, then you'd need 4 of those things to make your bank. Bang, you're done. So 4 $30,000 projects, and you're gold. Ideally, those would be coming in on a rolling kind of cycle, so you weren't feast and famining it, and you were just constantly replenishing the bucket, and a new $30,000 project would roll in. Yeah, but the question is, can you handle 4 of those $30,000 projects? 4 projects where you're doing $10,000 a month. The question to think about then is, we get locked into often thinking about ourselves as a one note Charlie, right? We play one note. That's the only thing we play, like playing the triangle in the band. yeah, it's an important instrument, but it only has one note. And the more notes you have, the more versatile you can be, and the more you can be used in the orchestra. Think about it. You can do not only, you know, organizational coaching, but you could do one-on-one coaching. What if you got some scrum masters and just provided them ongoing one-on-one coaching? What about performing an assessment, right? If you created an assessment as a product, charge 5,000 or 15,000 for an assessment, and here's your criteria that you'll go through and evaluate for a company. That's a great product you could sell. What about group coaching, right? Instead of doing the one-on-one coaching for a bunch of Scrum Masters, what if you had a Scrum Masters group, a Scrum Masters cohort that you got together and did sort of like we're doing here, or you did your own, like you met once a month or every other month. If you're in the same town, do you know a bunch of Scrum Masters in your town? Maybe you could get them together and on a monthly basis go have coffee and do some QA discussion, Q&A, not QA, but Q&A discussions, and figure out what is working for them, what's not working for them, give them advice, provide group coaching for them. Or you could do live training classes. This is the way I started out, by teaching classes. You can make a lot of money doing those kind of classes. What about online classes? Do some online classes. You could train people online and charge less, but not have to travel, so you can get more people. What about that? What else? I mean, be creative. Look at this from a million different perspectives and figure out how you might be able to slice this to make it work better. Look at your skills and map out a mix of skills and offerings that you can then offer to your customers and provide them value, right? So if you looked at, here's just a bunch of those things that I threw up. If you had like these small size projects that are a $30,000 3-month project, I'm barfing in there, some random numbers for expenses. Who knows what it is? So I said $500 for expenses. Then you'd get, $29,500 a pop for those things. If you had medium-sized projects that were $70,000 and you had a bunch more expenses with those, then you'd be like $67,000 a pop for those projects. Larger projects at the 150, 200, I don't know, $1 million projects too, whatever, wherever you want to put your decimal point. But the point is to lay these out, and and here's a live class with 25 people that you charge $1,500 a head. If it's $5,000 to rent a room and get the catering and all that kind of stuff, then you could make 32.5 on one weekend of classes, right? 2-day, 3-day class. Online classes. What if you charged $97 for an online class and had 50 people in it? Maybe $200 in software for the video conferencing stuff, but you could make a nice $5,000 doing that. That's easy. 50 people, you could do that, depending on your list, right? One-on-one coaching, $500 a person, $2,000 a person, depends on what you feel like you can command and what people will pay. But you can have lots of different people. One-on-one coaching is fairly labor intensity. So you'd want to look at all of these and go, what's my labor intensity associated with these? Or group coaching here, I said 10 people at $97 a piece. There's $1,000 for one group coaching. So you want to look at your labor intensity and you want to look at the profitability. So if I look at the difference between the one-on-one coaching and a group coaching, if I had a group of 10 Scrum Masters and we did this all online and I charged them $97 a month to be members of my group coaching program, and it cost me $50 for miscellaneous products and materials or whatever to get that going, I could be making a good $1,000 a month just serving these 10 people if it's a group coaching session and you've got 10 people, it means maybe you meet twice a month, every other week. That's actually a lot of time for people. People are busy, and getting 2 hours a month away is not easy. So they schedule 2 hours away. They get huge value from you. You're only charging them $100 a month, and you're pulling in $1,000 a month on that. Get 2 or 3 of those groups. That's 2 or 3 1-hour sessions every 2 weeks. So that's 4 to 6 hours a month, and you could be making $2,000, right? If you had 2 of these groups, $2,000 just on doing that. Easy. So look at these different options and make up your own. Don't look at mine. Geez, use your imagination and come up with something unique and creative, and look at the labor intensity versus the revenue that comes out of it, right? So an online class is a lot less labor intensive than a live class, but it also has a lot lower profitability, right? So you got to balance those things off of one another. Now you could raise your revenue. Here is really the price of the class or the price of the service. So if you raise that price from $97 to $300, you also have to raise the commensurately raise the value to your customers of it. And that's the kicker that I actually was talking with this guy the most about. We'll talk about that in another video about how to understand and share value, elicit value from your customers. But that's an important one to think about. So this is what I'm saying. Look at these different things. If you just did this, if you had one $30,000, one $70,000, one $150,000 project, you taught one class, you taught one online class for 50 people, you did one person, one-on-time coaching once, only 1 month, and you had one group coaching session for a month, you'd be making annually $277,070. You'd be pulling in $23,000 a month. So double all these, push some up, push some down. Maybe you don't want to do the big $150,000 projects. That's a lot of labor intensity, and maybe you just don't want to go there. Maybe you'd rather just be teaching live classes at $32,000 a pop. Run those numbers. You don't have to do too many classes if you sell them all out to make the money there. But there's a lot of labor intensity involved. So it's a matter of balancing it out, figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. Now you need to sell all those services, right? So how do you sell those services? And the first truth of sales is this: all things being equal, people buy from those they know, they like, and they trust. The second truth is, all things not being equal, they will still buy from someone they know, like, and trust. Even if you're more expensive, if they know, like, and trust you, they will buy more from you. This is why, people with a great personal brand can charge more. If you have, Dan Pink is going to be able to charge more than Dan Smith, whoever Dan Smith is, right? Even they may have the exact same message, but people know Dan Pink and they like what he has to say, and they trust he's going to give them good advice. So they will pay him $100,000, $200,000 for a one-time speech. They won't pay Dan Smith $10 for a one-time, maybe pay $1,000 or $5,000 for that same exact. They could be saying the exact same thing, and they would pay them less because of the know, like, and trust. So how do you do that? That's the job of marketing. Marketing is all about building up that know, like, trust trio, creating the relationships with people so that they know, like, and trust you, right? The reason we know who Dan Pink is because he's got books, he's got videos, he's out there, he's a social media guy, right? I'm thinking of another guy and I'm spacing on his name. Don't ever get confused about marketing. Marketing is about creating relationships so people know, like, and trust you. It's not about selling your services. Understand that? Marketing isn't about selling. Sales and marketing are two very different things. Marketing is getting people to know, like, and trust you. Sales is getting them to do something about that. Building relationships. So you want to build relationships in your marketing. So what? So now, okay, so how do we do it? Well, building that know, liking, and trusting happens over time. You can't immediately have people know, like, and trust you. That's why it's so hard to get that first gig if you haven't spent time building your brand beforehand. And that's what we're talking about here, is building your brand so that you can launch out and have your own business. You need to start building that tribe of people who follow you. You need what we call a list. So to begin with, your list will just be everyone you know, right? And you'll be surprised how many people you actually know. And I don't mean just the people who you know on LinkedIn. I mean everyone you know. People you know from church, from social groups, from school where your kids go, from alumni associations, from community groups that you work with, people from the coffee shop you go to, everyone you know, right? Your Facebook people as well as your LinkedIn people. Now, in order to capture that list, you need some kind of list service. There's a lot of different ones out there. You've probably heard of them. Aweber or Auber. Aweber. I think it's Aweber. iContact, MailChimp, GetResponse, Constant Contact, Drip. There's a billion of them. These are the most basic mailing services. They basically provide you the ability to hold a list of people and send them messages. Some of them have greater or lesser abilities to send out what you'd call a campaign of messages, which is a queued up series of messages. And in other videos, I'll talk about how to do that and how hugely valuable that can be. That's helped me build my list a lot. But I'll share that with you in another video. So when you're rich later on, you can use something like Infusionsoft, which is a powerful email marketing tool that goes way beyond just these basic mailer campaign services. But don't look at it. But look at it. It's interesting. It would be cool to check out what Infusionsoft does, but it's freakishly expensive. I used it for a little while, way back before I was as sophisticated as I'm now, and even now, I don't think it's worth the money. I wasted a lot of money back then. It's more advanced. You don't need it now, and it's expensive. Personally, I use a company called Drip. I like what they provide. I've used Auber before. I've used iContact before. I've used MailChimp before. Couldn't stand MailChimp. Their interface doesn't make any sense to me. iContact didn't have some of the automation functionality that I want to have now, so I moved away from it. Changing platforms can be a pain in the butt, so pick one that you think is going to grow with you and that you can afford. So that's the balancing act, knowing how much you can afford to pay, but also how much functionality you want to get out of it. Take a look into these different ones. Look at the features and functionality. Ask us questions in the forum on the Facebook group, and we can talk about what the different ones are, the benefits and drawbacks of the different ones. Most of them offer like some kind of startup, a free month, or some kind of incentive to get you started. Always go for that, obviously. I'll do a separate video on Drip because that's it's inexpensive, but it has a lot of flexibility and growth. So I'll do a separate video on what I'm doing on that. Many of you have actually come through my Drip campaigns. You may or may not have known that, but you did. That's how we got here. Okay, but back to talking about your list. How do you build a list? Well, the first thing you'll do is start by talking to the people you already know and just get the message out to them. Hey, here's what I'm doing. Get the message out to them. Hey, here's what I'm doing. A tool like Drip will have a sign up page. It has both the ability to integrate on your website and to have a hosted page. So sometimes I will just send out emails or send out messages to people like on LinkedIn. I'll say, hey, if you want to join my mailing list and find out about things ahead of the rest of the crowd, sign up here, and I'll point them to my the hosted Drip page. Sometimes I'll send them to my website, depending on what I want them to do. Right? Do I want them to go to my website and sign in and browse the website, or do I really want to focus on getting them to sign up for the newsletter? Sometimes if you offer people too many options, they won't choose any of them. It's called decision fatigue. And if you offer too many decisions, then they just stop making them. That's why reducing the number of clicks that people have, reducing the number of decisions people have to make. That's why Amazon has the one-click buy. It's because they know the more clicks you have between you and purchasing, the more likely you are to not purchase. If they can get you to say yes immediately when you are there, then they don't have any of those options for you to say no. Sure, you could go back and undo it. You could refund or return or whatever. But that feels like going psychologically. There's a lot of baggage there. We like to do things that are consistent with what we've done before. So if you clicked buy and you clicked it on the one click buy, you're more likely to just leave it in there than if you were, even if you regret it, then if you clicked next page or add to cart, and then you got to your cart and then regretted it, it's much easier to just dump it there than it is to go to your cart and refund it back out. It's psychology. It's all psychology. So give them a sign up page where they can sign up and register. Always use the double opt-in options. You really want to make sure that people understand that they're signing up for a newsletter or a repeat for your mailing list, not for anything else, right? There's a whole CAN spam regulations. Check out this video. This is actually from the Federal Trade Commission, so this kind of goes through what the CAN spam is. It was remarkably short. I was very pleased to watch a nice short video from the FTC on what CAN spam is and how you can be compliant. It's not hard, but you better be compliant or you can be in big trouble. So back to building your list. One way is not right for everyone. So you may want to do one way and other people may want to do another way. One approach is just email everyone you know with a nice, polite email and tells them, hey, this is what I'm up to. I'm going to be starting this new venture. If you're already launched, then you can tell them, I've started my own consulting company and I would love to keep you up to date with the kinds of things I'm doing. I'm really innovating on X, Y, and Z, whatever it is that you're innovating on, so that you can help them understand and be excited to click. You have to sell the click. Right here, what you're doing is sell the click. The purpose of your email to your friends and to whoever you know is to get them to click. Okay, if you're just starting to share, I'm going to start sharing my thoughts on whatever the topic is, whatever your take is on agility and business improvement. Be sure you're targeting yourself and niching yourself. People understand who you are and that it's not just going to be vanilla, right? People want to know they're getting something unique. If you're contrarian at all, people will love to hear that. And then if they'd like to stay in touch, go to this link. Then they go to that link. Probably the link to the opt-in page, and away you go. Once you have their info, now it's time to start nurturing that contact, right? So that's your opportunity now to get information out into their hands. I'm not really a newsletter guy. I know a lot of people are. I personally don't read people's newsletters. They don't really do anything for me. The old-fashioned e-zine world, that was, 10 years ago. People were doing those things. And nowadays it's newsletters. I just don't do them, which is, I don't read them. And I'm assuming people who are like me, who are my customers, don't read them either, which is good because I'm not necessarily the best at being consistent. If you're going to be a consistent, that's great. I mean, if you're going to do a newsletter, those can be great. But if you start it, keep up with it and set your schedule and keep with your schedule. So if you are doing a weekly newsletter, you darn well better do it weekly, and don't mess around and accidentally miss a week and go on vacation and miss a week because of that, and then it's summer break and I got sick. No, if you're doing it weekly, queue them up so that you have enough there that you can that life can happen. Monthly is probably easier, but it's harder to remember. So if you're going to do it monthly, do monthly, but keep up consistency, whatever you do, because they're going to see that if you commit to doing a newsletter, they will see the newsletter consistency as you, right? And if you are inconsistent with the newsletter, they're going to believe you're inconsistent with your work, and that won't bode well. So whether you're doing a newsletter or you're just doing in one-off emails like I do, start mailing them your best stuff, but make no requests. Don't ask them for work. Don't say anything about, I'm looking for this. Can you help me find that? Don't ask for referrals. Just email them value, right? This communication should be 80-20, 90-10, something like that, where the 80 or 90% is just solid content, things that they can implement right away, addressing their most pertinent questions, pain, the things that they're struggling with right now, and then 10 to 20% offers. So if you send out 10 emails, if you send out one email a week, that's 2 and some months worth of emails, right? One email a week, 10 emails. 1 or 2 of them can offer something. The rest of them should just be content. Benefit. Just give them, because people don't want to be sold. If you are always asking for work, then people will unsubscribe from you like that. So you should just be providing value with most of it. Okay, well, that's probably more than enough for right now. You should, the goals out of this is to understand you need to build a list in order to start getting people to hear your message. Those people will eventually become customers. You need to figure out what kind of service you're going to use to host that list on, and start creating content and giving people value. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be audio, it can be video, it can be written, it can be pictures, right? You can do memes. I've done all of these things. Maybe not all of them in my news to my list. I don't think I've done memes out to my list, but you could. I mean, whatever you want it to be, let it be that. But start providing value to your list. So if you like this video, or if you didn't, or if it has raised questions in your mind, post some questions on the Facebook group and we'll chat about them, and maybe they'll become future videos or whatever. But this is it. I hope you appreciate this video. I appreciate you being part of this group. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.